Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Thursday's edition, and we are broadcasting from beautiful Delray Beach, Florida, where it's a sunny 77 out today, and from Long Island, New York. Jeffrey, welcome back. Happy to have you. Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday. Great to be here. It's been a fun week.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. A lot of action going on, that's for sure. We're going to get to some of the economics and the stock stuff a little bit later in the show, but hey, there was a big policy shift. You know, a lot of both Republicans and Democrats are complaining about what the leftist Biden administration is not doing down at the border. And finally, a federal judge stepped in and said, enough is enough. And basically, what the Republicans call a catch and release plan, excuse me, that has been struck down by a Florida federal judge. And, you know, the administration, Jeffrey, said, well, we just don't have enough facilities to handle them all. And my response is, then toughen up the damn border policy, seal the border, don't let anyone in, and you'll solve that problem. Jeffrey, what say you?
I say the best part of the judge's decision yesterday is what he said and how he beat up on Biden. You know, he kept saying how, you know, Biden screwed things up by opening up the border. It was like, hey, nice guy. Yeah, I mean, he opened the border and destroyed every working program. You know, they keep saying, well, what's the Republicans' program? And I keep saying, well, the one we had before Biden became president was kind of working.
Right. Build the wall. That's exactly right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. Part of the problem here is not Biden. It's the esteemed Vice President Kamala Harris, you know, who is, quote, ultimately in charge of the border, according to Biden. And then Secretary Mayorkas, who a lot of Republicans want impeached. You know, simply, you and I both know, effectively, they had an open border policy. And it finally got to a point where the numbers were overwhelming. And, you know, you're going to talk a little bit about fentanyl, but the drugs coming across, the people, the smuggling, the crime. I mean, Jeffrey, it really is a bad situation at the southern border. And it's about damn time that, you know, these judges' orders were enforced. Now, the government has 7 days to appeal it. I don't know whether they will or will not, but this has been a while coming. I mean, this lawsuit didn't just happen. It's been going through the court system now since, what, 2021?
So, you know, liberals keep saying that Trump's policies were inhumane. If you see the pictures of the movies, I mean, the videos of people dying as they cross the Rio Grande or being stuffed into the back of a trailer, that's inhumane.
Yeah. Yeah, no question about it. What do you make of Biden's press secretary yesterday? You know, when they talked about fentanyl and the deaths and drugs continue to pour across the border, it was almost like she just sort of like blew it off. And then you were mentioning about Biden had, you know, his typical cackle about some question reporter. Share with our audience what was going on there.
Well, if you remember, like last week, there was a mother coming in testifying before Congress that both her sons died from fentanyl, poisoning. And it wasn't, they're not considered an overdose, at least to me, because if you have this much fentanyl, you're dead. And Biden, when he was talking about it, someone asked him about it, and in the middle of it, like he started, you know, doing a Kamala cackle.
Oh, yeah.
And it just showed that he has no respect for the American people. But when the Karine, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Karine Jean-Pierre, yeah.
Was asked about it. Was asked about the fentanyl. She says, well, I think we're doing a great job. That his fentanyl is at historic lows. And if anybody believes that, I have this really nice bridge in Brooklyn I can sell you.
Yeah, it's not even close. I mean, it's
double
records.
what it was when he became president.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really bad. You know, a lot of Republican senators, Jeffrey, are pushing to let's re-engage building that border wall. Now, you and I both know under the Biden administration that's not going to happen, because within the administration of Biden himself, these are basically hardcore leftists, and they really want additional people to come in the country.
The interesting is there's a place in Texas where the walls that weren't put up, they're just hanging out, getting rusted. It's the most incredible thing.
Yeah, it's another example of government waste, and just, again, you said the operative. No, of course not. You said the operative word, though. Trump's policies were working at the southern border. Absolutely. And effectively what these leftists in the Biden administration did, they did away with them just because they were, quote, Trump's policies. They, forget the fact that they weren't. And the American people are really sick of all this stuff going on down there.
Well, that and the liberals wanted an open border.
Of course they do. They want all kind of crazy things. Open border, DC statehood. There's all kind of garbage that could happen if we didn't have, one house of Congress or the presidency or the Senate. You're exactly right. Thank goodness for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema last time around, or you'd have had DC statehood just all kind of bad stuff going on. Let me shift one thing internationally now. We talked about the border. We're going to advocate constantly on it because we think it's a mess. Russia really pounded Ukraine last night. I mean, launched missiles at civilian targets, cities all across Ukraine, hitting, again, civilian targets. These are not military targets. Right. Jeffrey, if this thing ends, hopefully the way, with us supporting Ukrainians as NATO is, in a victory for NATO, Russia needs to undergo war crimes. I mean, this is horrific what they're doing. On the battlefield, they are making waves that salt mining town, Bakhmut, let's see, it's pronounced Bakhmut, yes. It may soon be crumbling based upon what the UN General Secretary is stating.
Well, I know a lot of people don't want us to do anything else. Okay. I don't feel that way. I feel that Biden isn't doing things. He's going like soft. I mean, he should be sending them the planes. It's interesting that yesterday was the 40th anniversary of Reagan doing his famous Evil Empire speech. Mm-hmm. Basically, he was saying, you're not going to screw around. We don't like the way you handle things, and we're going to stop it. And Biden's like, well, I don't want to upset them, so I'm not going to send them. I mean, the guy has no backbone. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, I'm in your camp. I'm not a lot of conservatives are saying, we need to be putting this money. We spent $40 billion on it. We need to be doing it at home. I'm not in that camp at all. I at least have supported the administration in their efforts so far. I think they could do more. Frankly, I'm in the do more category. Now, at least, their Ukrainian pilots are training in Arizona right now. So, I mean, you got to train them before you can give them the planes. So hopefully that will be a next step. But again, you've heard reports, Jeffrey, about, the Russians low on ammunition, their soldiers not effective fighters. The Wagner group is the one spearheading, most of the casualties. I don't know. I mean, to me, whether they take that town or not, there's some question of the strategic, military strategic importance to it. But the fact of the matter is, it's been defended. There's been a lot of loss of life over this town, which is basically destroyed. And again, no one ever heard of it before the war. It was a salt mining town of 80,000 people. There's less than 10,000 people left in the town. So, but again, when you take that combination with the deadly drone and missile attacks on civilian targets in cities, Jeffrey, they're trying to break them psychologically too.
Well, that, and because their soldiers aren't doing anything, they're taking another approach.
Yeah.
I mean, war crimes are nothing because they started it when they started the war. I mean, it's horrible, but their soldiers aren't working. Matter of fact, there's a lot of AWOLs, and so they're using, they're using missiles. They're using drones.
Yeah.
Because they can do a lot more damage.
Oh, they certainly can. Again, and that's why I think on our side and NATO's side, supporting the Ukrainian people and the government, NATO should do more. I mean, you say what you want. Same thing that the Russians are doing to the Ukrainians should be able to do it to the Russians. Start loading missiles and drone strikes on Russian cities and see what ends up happening.
One day Germany's going to do the 2% that they promised.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a heart attack because it's going to be such a shock.
Yeah, you're not going to see it. Well, yeah, they do need. Look, NATO collectively has stepped up here, but it needs to continue to do more. Look, these Russians don't stop. Okay, I mean, you don't know how far they're going to want to go in Ukraine, but it does appear this war shows no end in sight. Let me shift.
Try promising them they can go to Prince Charles' coronation if they stop the war.
It'd be sentenced. I mean,
maybe opening day.
Let me move on. All right, look, Joe Biden presented his budget, and Mitch McConnell, prior to when he had his misstep at a hotel, I guess last night,
they announced it wasn't a broken or anything; it was a concussion.
He had a concussion,
which is good because it's not bad. It wasn't a broken bone or anything.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. I'm glad to hear that. That's late breaking news. I've known him for over 30 years, so I'm happy to hear that. But my point was, before McConnell had his accident, when Biden presented this budget, McConnell basically made the comment, this budget will never see the light of day. It was a Democratic wish list. Again, typical Democrat budget. Spend more, tax the rich more, raise taxes for people making over 400 grand a year. And, if we're not paying federal employees enough already, he wants another 5.2% raise for federal employees. I mean, Jeffrey, we have so many federal employees. And to give a 5% raise to federal employees when you're already way over budget, and with the cost of Medicare and Social Security going up, I mean, this guy is just absolutely tone deaf about economics. It's just shocking. The government does not need to be spending more money when we're trying to cool down inflation.
And last year, the tax collections was 4.9 trillion, which is the highest ever.
Right.
So it's not a taxing problem. It's a too much spending problem.
100% correct. They're going to have to get that spending under control, and we do not need to be given 5.2% raises. I mean, Washington's idea of a cut, Jeffrey, is to reduce the increase in the budget. I mean, it's insanity. And that's why, folks, some of the 5 or 6 of the counties surrounding Washington, D.C. are among the wealthiest in the country.
Well, let me ask you something, you know this better than I do. If they raise the taxes that much, won't people send a lot of their money overseas? Isn't that what one of the ways Trump got the money back was lowering the taxes?
It helped, but that doesn't necessarily mean money will go overseas, because one of the taxes he wants to increase is the Obamacare tax, up from 3.8% to 5%. And he wants to tax billionaires. That's going nowhere. The tax increases, let's just call it what it is, with a Republican House of Representatives and no way to get 60 votes in the Senate. None of these tax and spend programs that the Biden administration is doing are going to become law. So I don't want to waste a whole lot of time talking about it. But you are right. We have a spending problem, not a tax problem, because the government's already taken in, just shy of $5 trillion in taxes. So again, and this is a clever way Washington says, the Democratic headline writers go, well, Biden proposes budget to cut $3 trillion of spending. No, he doesn't. We would still increase the debt, which is currently at $31.4 trillion, by another $2 trillion under Biden's budget. I mean, governments have to learn to live within their means, okay? And that does not mean taxing people into oblivion.
I think they should take the money out of Congress and the Senate salaries. Not the staff. I'm just talking about the congressmen and senators.
Well,
and
I don't think
like
that's
Pelosi, they should take it from all their stock earnings.
Well, I mean, certain things will happen, other things won't, but they've got to get their arms around this. They really do. You heard for years people are going to say, well, we're getting close to reaching a tipping point here. Well, the other day, Jerome Powell, in his testimony before the Senate, question came up about servicing the debt, and Powell said, yes, we can service the debt. The debt as a percentage of GDP is manageable, but the higher those interest rates go, the more cost it is to service that debt. So, something's got to give here. It's interesting, Jeffrey, right now in this country, job numbers came out. We have 10.8 million job openings in this country, 10.8 million. And yet I look at some statistics, we had an additional 211,000 first-time unemployment claims. Okay. And, these are not kind of continual claims. And I'm saying, wait a minute, 10.8 million jobs. And we have, I think it's 1.5 million, 1.6 on unemployment benefits, right? I'm saying, wait a second, let's tighten this up a little bit here. Having that many jobs, they should be able to refill. And you know which two states led the pack? New York and California. What do they have in common? High taxes and Democrats leading the states.
Well, and if you look at all the layoffs in Silicon Valley, which is California, and there's a lot of layoffs in the real estate industry in New York because people are saying that might collapse soon. That's part of it.
No, sure. And then, to boot, the stock market's down today. You had one of these crypto banks, Silvergate Capital, who, believe it or not, folks, this was a stock near $100 a share last year. Now it's trading sub $3 a share. The bank announced a liquidation plan. The stock will probably go even lower from here. And then Silicon Valley Bank, which was a VC, basically they lend to venture capitalists who would make investments in companies. Well, right now there's no liquidity in that. That stock lost like $140 a share right now. It's down by 2/3 from its high. And here's a case of, little cracks here and there, Jeffrey. You got some problems with some real estate stuff. Anecdotally, you're seeing where car loans, still a small number, but consumers are starting to fall behind a little bit more.
What you're also seeing is that it's shifting more towards used cars than new cars.
Yeah. But the immediate problems, what I was going up with this is the immediate problems today in the stock market are a result of these crypto bank failures. And then another one who was tied to venture capitalists who cannot get liquid in the current market right now. There's not a solid liquidity to be able to replenish their capital. So Silicon Valley Bank had to go out and raise billions of dollars in equity, and which dilutes shareholders and causes the stock to go down considerably because there's going to be more shares issued. So you're seeing little anecdotal things popping up that this could be some cracks starting to build, leading to a recession.
I'm interested to see what happens on Friday.
Well,
but let me ask you something. Why did they not do it the first Friday of the month? They always release the unemployment the first Friday of the month, even if it's in the middle of the week. This time they're doing it the second Friday of the month.
Let's see, tomorrow's going to be the 9th. That's because it would have fallen on the 2nd. I don't think they had the data by the 2nd. I think that's the answer to it, because when it falls first or 2nd, I don't know that they had the data available that quick. That would be my guess while we're getting it this week. So nothing nefarious there. Just I expect that we're going to see a decent employment number, maybe a couple 100,000 jobs created. I don't expect a major change in the unemployment rate. It's currently 3.5%. I think it's going to stay relatively around 3.5%. You've got a lot of job openings out there. Jobs are getting filled, but the economy is still humming along pretty good. I mean, there's certain sectors that are having some issues, like what we've talked about, cryptocurrencies. Well, you and I have never been fans of that. Okay, office buildings in some cities, New York, San Francisco, vacancies are up. Some parts of the country, real estate has declined 10%. Now, we haven't seen that really here in South Florida because, again, when you have more demand than supply, prices tend to go up. Now we're sort of bouncing out a little, but again, some cracks noticeable, Jeffrey, but it's nothing that's scary. Now, a lot of the banks are in sympathy or down today on Wall Street for fear that some of this could spread. I don't see a contagion here at all, but some of these banks, they did not manage their interest rate risk relative to liquidity, and they're sort of caught. So,
are we close to a debt bomb, though?
Are we close to a what?
A debt bomb.
Not aggregately in the economy. No, I don't feel that we are. But individual banks there could be a problem for certain. If you mismatch, in other words, a lot of people are complaining now. They're saying, well, the Fed raised rates so much, people are taking losses in treasuries that they bought. Well, my point is this: why'd you buy treasuries when they were yielding virtually nothing? I mean, no one held a gun to your head and said you got to buy a treasury. So, I mean, if banks and or investors bought that stuff, knowing that at some point interest rates would go up, there are losses that are going to, and they're going to appear more, Jeffrey. But the stuff that we're seeing on the crypto stuff is not shocking at all. I've thought a lot of the stuff was fraud from the beginning, as have you.
Well, if anybody wants a good laugh, watch the hearings they're doing with the Fed chair. Because the way the Congress and the senators are treating him, Powell.
Well, those hearings are over, though. Yeah, if you want to watch a highlight of it, go to YouTube and you'll see it.
Right, because it's amazing how little the Congress people know.
Not amazing to me at all. Particularly the Democrats, most of them don't have a clue what they're talking about. But again, we're dealt with the cards we're dealt, and that's what we're playing with. I think Jerome Powell's done a good job, and I think he's done generally the right tone and the right measure. And I don't have a lot of criticism on him, to be honest with you. The one thing I think they kept rates too low too long. But again, that's my opinion. Yep. So, hey, let me move on to a couple other things here. I wanted you to talk about this. You're more up to speed on this than me, but what is it about this Tucker Carlson show and these tapes that have mainly Democrats, a handful of Republicans, but mostly Democrats, literally up in arms? And I think you said Schumer was calling for his resignation or something. What's going on here?
Schumer was calling for Fox to stop his show, which talking about the First Amendment is ridiculous. He's basically showing parts of the video, parts of January 6th that no one saw before. And some of that is showing that it wasn't it was nothing more than a riot. Okay. And part of it was the Democrats went crazy because it damaged the story they made up about it. Okay. Yesterday they showed, I forget what they call him, the guy with the horns.
Yeah.
He was walking around the Capitol with Capitol Police, and they were showing him stuff. It was like a tour. They never showed that to his lawyer. They never showed that, and he's in jail for 4 years.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about.
But
Kevin McCarthy.
Not only Democrats. There have been Republicans. Heck, Mitch McConnell. It made me crazy because he said that he thought it was overdone, that it wasn't truthful.
What wasn't truthful?
The videos that Tucker showed, because he said they were cut and paste. They weren't the full things. And the interesting thing is, even if it wasn't the full tape, it was more than they showed.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, in my mind, what it really shows is that Congress and that committee wasn't being truthful for the American people. And really, what they were trying to do is damage Trump.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of his.
I understand. Look, Kevin McCarthy has come out and he's vowed to release all the footage to the public. So, why people are getting up in arms about footage being released when McCarthy said, I'm going to release all this. I don't know. I mean, it shows me they're nervous.
It proves they're lying. And that's what they're afraid of. They're
Well,
going crazy because it's showing that the story they've been telling since, January 6th, it wasn't an insurrection. It was a riot, and anybody who rioted didn't do a good thing, and if they did any damage or assaulted anybody, they deserved to go to jail. But most of the people weren't. But when there was a group that couldn't get onto the White House lawn, so they went across the street and burnt the church down, St. John's Church. That wasn't an insurrection. When in Portland they tried to burn down the courthouse, the federal courthouse, that wasn't an insurrection.
no, I don't think either one of those instances were insurrections. I think they were criminal. I think,
but
yeah,
they
I
weren't
think it's
any worse that went on January 6th, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that think mainstream Republicans want this issue to go away. To be honest with you, I'm sort of in that camp. I mean, I think you win elections by looking forward, not backward. Now, if there were wrongs done, they have to be rectified. And I always thought the January 6th committee with 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, and our 2 were Liz Cheney and Kinzinger, it was not a representation of equal staff people. So honestly, they did all these hearings. They tried to blame Trump. We're going to learn Trump's fate from the special prosecutor. Okay, yeah, that'll become. But
it's not just Trump. They didn't talk about Pelosi rejecting more people, right, coming to and help out the National Guard. What bothers me about it is I think they have to be honest with the American people.
Sure.
And this was, in my mind, a big lie.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, really. We were told bull dinky. And that's
Speaker McCarthy's vowed to release all the footage. So, I mean, at the fact that Tucker Carlson's show and Fox News are releasing it now, and you've seen more of it than I have, but ultimately it's all going to come out, and the American people will be able to make a judgment call, and they're going to say, wow, those partisan Democrats really pushed the story, and they took it, possibly beyond where it really was. This will play itself out, Jeffrey.
That cop that supposedly died?
Yeah, well,
they showed him walking through the Capitol. They had a video after he supposedly died.
Oh, after. Okay.
Which means he walked good for a dead guy. Maybe he was a zombie, or maybe we were lied to. Not only by the January 6th committee, but it was a Democratic Party mantra and the press.
Oh, well, clearly.
Yeah. And that's what I just hate being lied to.
Yeah. You'll get no argument from me on that. But again, I think all the facts will come out because McCarthy's going to release all these tapes, and we'll let people judge for themselves what happened. And as more information comes out, my whole point of this, again, I think there were a lot of wrongs done that day. Some people are in jail paying for it.
Right.
But if I'm a lawyer representing one of those clients and they show damaging tape but withheld other stuff, they can have a problem with that. I
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And
all right,
what
let's
you
shift
didn't see is the guy coming in with a pizza box because I think they called in for a delivery.
Let's shift to politics here now, and we got a couple minutes left. Look, some polling has come out recently. Again, don't want to make a whole lot of this, but again, here in Florida, which Ron DeSantis is the governor, he's ahead of Trump by 25 points, and he ought to be ahead, maybe not by 25, but he's up 25 points. But when you get outside the state of Florida, it sort of flips to where Trump's up by about that same margin in multiple states. So, Jeffrey, again, really early, we only have 3 announced candidates in the Republican field right now. More certain to follow, but how do you handicap it? Where do you see things right now?
Well, and it becomes more likely every day that Biden's going to run.
Yes, agreed.
I think that there are going to be so many Republicans running. And I'm not talking like last time when they were in 16, when what were there, 12?
Yeah, it was a
But
lot.
I think there'll be 5 or 6. And they'll split the non-Trump vote. And Trump's going to have 35, 40%. So the more people that come in, the more likely Trump's going to win. The other thing is, who's going to be the vice president?
It depends who the nominee is, obviously. I mean,
well, he was the rumor is that the woman who lost the Arkansas governor race.
You mean the Arizona governor's race, Carrie Lake?
If he
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that rumor, by the way. I'm not.
I think Nikki Haley would be a good choice for him.
Again, before we get on the VP, I'd like to know who my nominee is before we get into that. We're gonna have
I said I'm not running.
What's that?
I said I'm not running.
Yeah, you took yourself out of the race. You and Governor Larry Hogan of Maryland have taken yourself out of the race. Look, I think when DeSantis does officially announce, and I think if Tim Scott announces, Pompeo or Pence or both, these numbers are going to change. You might be right. At the end of the day, I don't think Trump supports 35. I think it's a solid 30, though. About 30% is a solid Trump base. There's room to maneuver there, but it's not going to be easy. And again,
100%.
You think Pence is 100% go?
100% running.
Okay. Well, he hasn't announced yet, but I think he will. And look, Mike Pence has his lane. Mike Pence has had a distinguished career, and people don't question Mike Pence's integrity. That's for damn certain. And I think he'll do well. Will he do well enough? Again, and will Governor DeSantis announce? All signs are pointing towards it. Will Senator Scott announce? Again, all signs point to it. So, Jeffrey, we're going to have coming up pretty soon. It's going to start getting exciting. But I concur with you on the.
Did you ever watch the show Married with Children?
No.
No. Well, Al Bundy, I want him to run. I actually ordered a T-shirt that has said Al Bundy 2024. Because right now there's no one else I want that's running.
Well, the American public, the Democrats, only 37% want Biden to run. And on our side, roughly 60% don't want Trump to run. So, but if, again, it's not today, because, Biden hadn't announced, he looks like he's going to. If the election were held today, we'd have a repeat of Biden and Trump. But again, it's not held today. First votes are still, 10 months away. So we got a ways to go. But, listen, we always talk about what's going to be happening. Keep your eye out for what's happening with these interest rates, the unemployment report coming out tomorrow, all these factors coming in to see if any of this crypto stuff spreads any further. You're seeing some fallouts from, but again, we'll cut through all the BS on it. Again, we wish Mitch McConnell a good recovery here. I'm happy to hear that no
Absolutely.
broken bones. And even Schumer showed a little bit of class, saying some nice things about him on the Senate floor today.
Yeah,
shockingly, from your
he didn't mean it. Schumer doesn't have class.
Okay. All right, Jeffrey, look, we're out of time for today, but listen, it's Thursday. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of good stuff. Folks, we'll be back next week. We'll digest all the news for you, capsule it, condense it so that you don't have to, go through and listen to a filter. We'll tell you what's really going on here. But Jeffrey, thank you again. Great insights as always.
Thanks for having me. And I will see you a week from today.
Yes, you will. And we will be back in studio next week. So thanks for enduring us while we've been on the road here. And we'll look forward to chatting with you next week. Have a great weekend coming up. See you then.